Hey guys, welcome back to the tutorials, and in this video we'll be learning about variables, how to name a variable, and data types of the variables, and further we'll see arithmetic operators that we can use to perform mathematical operations on variables or on values. So let's start with the variables. A variable is basically a container to store any value inside your computer, inside your program. And let's take a variable, just say you want to store your age, and we'll be taking a variable called age, and we can assign the value using the equal sign, and let's say the age is 20. And now this variable age is stored somewhere on your hard drive in your heap memory, and it's holding the value of 20. So now I just want to display the value of this variable on console. So I can simply pass the variable name inside the brackets of print function, and I will display the message in console. And just to remember one thing, we're not going to use the quotes around this variable, because in this case the Python programming will consider this as a string and will just simply print the same, exactly same on console, just like here. And let me just zoom it in a bit so can you guys can see easily. Yeah, so just don't use the quotes around your variable names. Now, if I run this program by clicking this run icon, it will simply display the value, the stored value inside the variable. And we can also modify the value of any variable. Let's say in the second line, I'm modifying the value to 50, and let's run the program again, and it will print the latest value, the updated value on console. And this was a concept of variable. And now since the programming languages are designed to cope with the real world problems, so in real world we do have different types of data. Let's say you go to your GP, he'll ask for your name, he'll ask for your contact number, he will ask for your address, and he will ask for your age. So age is basically an integer, and so there are basically 5 different data types in any programming language, and one of them is integer, and integer is any whole number from maths. And the second data type is float or double. Let's say we want to store the price of any product, and the price is 15.5. And now this is like a float or double data type, and let's name this just to tell you, this hash sign we use it for commenting, and a comment is a line of code. The compiler would not execute this line and will consider just a comment, because comments are there to add some more readability into your code, so you can add some hints just like I'm adding here. So this is integer, and let's say I want to store my name, and I'll take variable first name, and I'm gonna store a kashif. And now this is string data type, and there's another data type called character, and it could be let's say I want to store the gender of a person, and I'm just storing a word F, or F for female and M for male. And character will basically hold only one character, and let me just name this as character. And there is another data type called bool, and this is something contains two states, either true or false. So let's say alive, or make a more meaningful, is alive, and I'm gonna store true. So it will hold only two values, either true or false. Sorry. And since I'm alive, so I'm going to store true. And another thing to consider here, Python, as I told, is case sensitive, so we're not going to use we can't use a small t here, and we'll have to use a capital T. So This will consider this as a bool value. Now let me name this as boolean value, or you can simply call it bool. So these are 5 different data types, and you can also check the type of any variable, and by using a function. Let's get the type of the first variable, which is age. So now it will not print the value, but it will print the type, the data type of this variable on console. Let's execute, and okay, it's telling it's an integer type. So remember, in programming, we represent integer as int. And let's check the data type of second variable, and it will print the data type of second, which would be float. And in other languages like C Sharp or Java, it will consider it's like there's another word as mentioned is double. So float and double are basically the same things. It will represent the decimal point values. And now let's check the type of the third variable, which is first name. And okay, now it's telling the value, the type of this variable is string. And remember, we represent string with str in programming, in Python programming. And let's check for the fourth one. It might display the character, I might consider it just a string. So let's just execute. Okay, it's considering it's a string. So in Python, it just eliminated the type, data type character, because in any other language, if you talk about C, C++, or C Sharp or Java, they do hold a data type called character, but Python consider this as string. So I can simply remove this because it's not part of Python. So it's giving us error. You know why? Because unresolved reference gender is basically asking for the reference of this variable or for this particular name. So we don't have any variable declared with this name, so Python is unable to understand this. So this is like for the next lessons, it's just a scenario when you don't have any variable declared on top and you're just trying to access the value or the type of the variable, and will gives you a red line. That means there's something wrong. Okay, now let's check the type of the last one. So it should tell us, yeah, bool. So it just simply display the value, the type as bool. Okay, let's talk about how you can name your variables. There are some certain rules that you need to follow in order to name your variables. And for the rules, I'll refer to the W3 schools, and it specifies the some rules here. And it's the first rule is saying, let's say a variable name must start with the letter or the underscore. That means you can't use any integer or any dot or any special character in start of the name. And the secondly, variable name cannot start with a number. That's the exact thing that I just said. And thirdly, it says a variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscores. So you can only use alphabets, integers, and integers in between or after the alphabets. You can't place it in start of the variable name, and you can use underscores. Okay, the next rule says variable names are case sensitive. That means age and age starting with caps A, they are two different things, and age all capitals, they are like all three different. And the next rule says a variable name cannot be any of the Python keywords. So keywords are the language reserved variable names, just like print, just like true, just like false. You can't use them as variable name. And here's more intense example of this. Let's see. So, well, actually, let's take this code to our editor, and let's place it here. Okay, so either you can name like in a combination, you're not allowed to use any space between your variable names, otherwise it's gonna give some error, as I just showed here. And You can use underscore in between, or you can underscore in start or in between, just to make it more readable. Or you can choose a camel case. This is called camel case, where you write your very first letter as small, or you may write a capital. And every starting word, every new word would start with a capital letter. So my variable, my var means v is capital, so this is the camel case. Or you can name your variable in fully capital letters, and this represents constants in any language. If you're supposed to declare a variable as constant, you will write your variable name in full capital letters. That means every developer should know you don't need to change this value because it's a constant, just to make it more unique. And yeah, this is the case where you can use the integer in between anywhere, let's say here or in end, but you can't use the variable, the integer in start. Either just type the integer in start, and it's just showed us the red line. So these are the rules that you need to follow while giving names to your variables. And yeah, that's all about variables. Uh, Let me just give you a summary. So variable is basically a container that holds the value of the user, and there are different types of data types of variables, which are integer, float, string, and bool. So according to, as I mentioned an example in start, which says like you go to GP and it needs to store you different data like name, contact, address. So back in the system, it will store these values in different data types. Like age should be stored as integer, and if you got your address, that should must be stored as a string, and if you got your contact, that can be stored as integer as well, or you can store that as a string as well if you want. So these are some common things about variables. And okay, let's move to the next step, which is arithmetic operators. So let me remove this code. Arithmetic operators basically are the operators that are used to perform some addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division in your variables or in your values in your programming language. And let's take an example. So I'm just taking a variable called x and I'm storing a value of 15. And I'm taking another variable called y and storing the variable, the value of 10 in it. And let's perform some, let's take another variable called result, and let's add these two variables together using the plus sign. And this plus sign represents arithmetic. This is basically an arithmetic operator and used to add two numbers together. And now I just want to print the result on console. So let's add them numbers together. Let's just run this program. And okay, now you can see the sum as 25 on console. So in the same way, let's say I'm taking another variable called product, and I'm going to multiply these two numbers, x and y, and a static sign is used to multiply two values or two variables. So let's now display the product on console, and it should be 150. Yeah. And let's say I'm taking another variable. Let's name this minus, and I'm gonna minus x or y. Let's say, yeah, x minus y. And let's print this minus on console. And there you go, the subtraction is 5. And in the same way, let's perform some division, and I'm just taking a variable called div, and I'm gonna divide x by y. So forward slash is basically a division sign in any programming language. And let's display this division on console. And there you go, the answer is 1.5. So these are the basic arithmetic operators that you can use in your programming language. Let's say you are going to design a calculator where you need to add some features, addition, subtraction, multiplication, just like any normal calculator. You can use your arithmetic operators there. And let's move to the next topic, which is user input, how we can take user input from console. And let's basically develop some calculator. So we can take a variable called x. Let's actually remove the whole code. And I'm taking variable x, and for taking input, there's a function in Python called input, and this will basically read the input from console. And inside this input, we can specify the message, enter first number, and let's take another variable called y and take another input called enter second number, and let's just display these numbers on console, print x, print y. So you can see the prompt here, which tells us enter the first number, exactly the same message that we just entered here. So let's enter the first number as 5, and now we'll ask for the second number, and let's enter 6. And okay, now as per the coding, it just displayed the input values on console, and we can make it look a bit more better using some Python string formatting. And let's say first number is and comma, and in the same way we can define second, well, comma here, and second number is this. And after comma we'll simply pass the variable name, and in this way, let's see the output. It will make it more precise. Okay, the first number is 18, second number is 20, and there you go. It will display that first number is 18 and second number is 20. So this is how we can make all the output look a bit more better. And we can also perform some arithmetic operations on these numbers. And let's say I'm taking another variable called result, and I'm adding these two numbers together. And now I can print on console sum of entered numbers is this. And now I need to pass a variable which holds the sum of two numbers, which is result. And mm, this line of code will simply ask the user for input the first value. When the compiler goes to this line, it will ask the user to enter the second number, and when the compiler comes to this line, it will simply add two numbers together, and in the last line it will simply execute this print statement, which will display the sum of the entered values. So let's execute this code. Number 1 is 5, number 6 is, number 2 is 6, and enter. And okay, now I just display the sum. Well, that's a good point. That's where the typecasting comes in. Now instead of 50, instead of 11, it says 56. So since we discussed different data types, and the input function always returns the string, so instead of considering it as integer, it just simply consider them as string, and just the plus operator combined the two strings together. So to we need to parse the input to integer. We can use the int, and then inside the int function we'll pass the whole input function. So now whenever the user will enter any value, it will, this function will receive the input from console, and this function will convert this value from string to integer type. So this is something called typecasting. Now we're just converting the type from string to integer, and now these two variables are of type integers, and now we can add them together. So let's run the same code again, and 5, and the second number is 6, and there you go, that's your answer. Sum of entered numbers is 11. So always keep in your mind, if you need to perform any mathematical operations, let's say plus or minus or anything, you need to convert the type from integer, from string to integer. So for parsing the type, this is something called typecasting, and we just converted the type from string to integer, and then we added two numbers together, and hence it displayed the sum of entered values. So that's all for today's lesson, and in the very next video we're gonna learn about conditional statements, which is if else, and that's all for today.